one going, and the topic, next topic is mental health, occupational stress, injuries, and resiliency. Dr. Katy Kamkar is a clinical psychologist at the Work, Stress, and Health Program, Psychological Trauma Program at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health at CAMH. She is an assistant professor within the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Toronto. She is also the medical advisor to the Board of Directors for Badge of Life Canada. Recently, Bill Rusk promoted her to sergeant, and she's been marching us around ever since. So Dr. Kamkar provides evidence-based psychological assessment and treatment for mood and anxiety disorders, trauma and PTSD, occupational stress injuries to first responders, and on a psychological distress in the workplace. She adheres to scientist-practitioner model of practice and integrates research and science with practice. Dr. Kamkar also provides education and workshops to ministries and organizations on workplace mental health. One of her greatest interests is to provide education to the public to promote mental health and well-being. She has written over 70 articles and blogs for various comprehensive public resources and has provided numerous public relations, TV and media work, including launching mental health series, being a former mental health blogger for CTV and Health News, and currently a mental health blogger for CP24 and CAMH. Dr. Kamkar has made close to 200 TV media appearances. Dr. Kamkar has also started a police blog series, Behind the Badge, Mental Health and Police Service. You guys should really follow this, it's great information. And this is to further help reduce the stigma of mental illness, promote mental health, and positive cultural change, and the understanding that first responders are human, and behind the badge there's a human being that we need to protect. One of the greatest gifts is when mental health practitioners take the bold step to understand the unique idiosyncrasies of the first responder personality. Dr. Katy has fearlessly stepped out into the chaos of the world of the lived experience first responder with kindness, compassion, skill, and she's taken our hand to walk with us. And she has the most extensive toy police car collection ever, plus one horse. And my sources say that if she gets one more car, her office is going to be moved down to the parking garage at CAMH. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Katy Kamkar.
Testing. Thank you so much, Brad. Well, good morning, everyone. I am so delighted to be here this morning with all of you and being part of such an incredibly important event. And it's very much heartwarming for me to see all the collaboration and all the networking going on. And for all of us to have an understanding that behind the badge, behind the first responder uniform and ID number, there is a human being, and we need to protect that human being. And so by all of us opening up the dialogue, normalizing the talk around mental health and mental illness, we are not only further promoting mental health, but we're also working on further reducing the stigma attached to mental illness and very much furthering the acceptance and understanding of mental health and encouraging people to seek help if they need it and when they need it. And with early intervention, it does lead to more positive treatment outcome, better prognosis, a return to a healthier level of functioning, increased productivity, and a positive financial impact. With $51 billion spent annually on annual healthcare costs and 35% of it being due to mental health disabilities because of increased absenteeism, reduced productivity, and sick days and short-term and long-term disability, we are each responsible to do something. Since I have joined Badge of Life Canada as a medical advisor, it has become a turning point in my life, not only because of the incredibly important purpose and cause of the organization, but very much because of the wonderfully good-hearted people that I have met. And they have welcomed me with such warmth and such kindness. And I'm just so proud and honored as having them within my circle of friends. And so if we can please give a round of applause to Bill and Lynn Ross and to Ivo for their life-saving work. Thank you. Now we know that we have our star MC, Brad McKay, today with us throughout the day. Brad, you better do a good job, otherwise Bill might have me as the MC next time.
Better looking, that's
No
for sure.
pressure. We all know of the fabulous work that Brad does in the world of peer support. And very recently, Brad McKay and Sid Gravel published a book. It's called Walk the Talk. It's for peer support, for first responders, and I highly recommend that book for every individual and organization, as peer support is part of the comprehensive mental health strategy, as it helps us to promote mental health, work on prevention and intervention, and peer support is also an integral part of the operational stress injury intervention. So many congratulations, Brad and Sid, and we are very proud of this wonderful initiative. We also have here a very popular Toronto Police social media officer, Scott Mills. Scott is putting right now everything that we do and we say in social media, so just keep an eye, be watchful of what you say and what you do throughout the day. And Scott, in addition to his policing work, does a lot of work with the community in terms of providing educational resources and especially of mental health. So we are grateful for your great work, Scott. Thank you for that. I joined Twitter last year, around April or so, and Scott had to guide me through a lot by giving me a lot of advice, the do's and don'ts. I mean, one of the advice was, Katy, stop putting photos of yourself. And so out of all my tweets so far, I have close to less than 3,000 tweets. The one tweet that became a sensation, where in less than 24 hours had over 12,000 views, was the tweet where the photo, Scott and I can assure you that I needed a self-esteem intervention after that, because I knew that I was not a sensation, but Scott was. And it's also Scott who introduced me to Badge of Life, and so thank you for that, Scott. And I remember prior to me having the chance to get in touch with Bill and Badge of Life, I asked Scott, I said, well, how is that gonna go? Do you think it's gonna be okay? Are they gonna like me? And he said, well, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? You should say something. Help me, support me. He said, well, I don't know. So thank you for your unconditional support, Scott. You might want to tweet that. Okay. Brad? How do I go? The green one, you're right. Thank you. Toronto's next top cop. We need to send this to Mark Sanders. And we are honored to have here with us York Regional Police Deputy Chief Tom Carrick. Also stepping my feet gradually into York Region Police with my police cruiser, my initials, courtesy of my good friend Brad McKay. So Deputy Chief, if I become more popular than you, you might get in trouble. Defining mental health, I think it's always very important for us to define mental health, because we always talk about mental illness, and somehow, sometimes we also need to wonder, well, what is good mental health? And the definitions, it has been kind of challenging to define mental health because the definitions keep changing. We used to believe that if a person does not show any signs of symptoms of mental illness, that the person is considered to be mentally healthy. But within more recent years, we have moved towards adopting a more holistic approach and have a better understanding that good mental health is not just the absence of mental illness. Similarly, some people could be more mentally healthy than others, whether they have a mental illness or not. So a group of psychologists have tried to look at what are some of the qualities or positive characteristics that can help us to better understand mental health. And these are some key characteristics that they arrive with, and I think it's always very helpful to look at the list to see what are the areas of strength that we have, and also what are the other areas that we need to further work on. Obviously, we do not need to be very high in all those to say that we are mentally healthy, because otherwise we will be probably in trouble. Ability to enjoy life refers to, am I able to enjoy the moment, the present time, my positives, and to be able to move forward? Resilience, given the life upsetting events that I can go through and challenges, am I able to bounce back from just those challenges, identify my positives, what I have learned, adapt to the situation, again, in order to be able to better problem solve and move forward. Balance, given the variety of responsibilities and roles and obligations do I have, am I able to set a balance that works for me? Or do I have a tendency to spend more time and energy into one area at the expense of another one? Self-actualization refers to, am I able to recognize my positives and my strength to be able to achieve my full potential? And finally, flexibility, am I able to identify my range of emotions and my range of thoughts? And especially when circumstances and situations change, am I able to, again, exercise flexibility within my goals and expectations to be able to better adapt to the situation? So again, it helps to look at those variety of characteristics to see again what are the areas that we feel comfortable and what are the other areas that we want to further work on. We all hear of the statistics, 1 in 5 individuals suffering from mental illness. Any numbers that you see, including here, we have for rate of PTSD, general population 7 to 12, police military around 8, firefighters 17s, and so on. Within all the percentages that you see, I believe that these are significant underestimates, because in reality, it doesn't take into account people who do suffer in silence, and also a lot of the numbers are taken from primary care providers and might not be taking the numbers from people who might see someone within private settings, and also because of the stigma as well. If you see here for police 8%, that's really because of the stigma. Within the comprehensive mental health strategy, there are 3 key main points that we really want to focus on. I really want you to remember. We want to further promote mental health. Okay, this is very much important for all of us here. Again, because no one is immune to mental illness. By promoting mental health, we need to further work on reducing the stigma and improving very much resilience. The second being, we want to work on prevention. Prevention can occur at any time, as early in life as possible, but then also prevention can occur during the course of an illness, as it helps to reduce its severity, its intensity, and also its reoccurrence. And by working on prevention is also boosting our protective factors and reducing our risk factors. And the third one being early interventions. As I mentioned earlier, with early intervention, it leads to more positive treatment outcome, prognosis, and a healthier level of functioning. Last year around September, I was a big fan of Robin Williams, and very, very tragically, he committed suicide. What was very interesting to me was to really listen and observe people's reaction. And sometimes I would hear people saying, including people whom I know had members of the family suffering from severe mental illness, and people would say, well, I don't understand why he committed suicide or that he was even depressed. He had all this money, the mansion, his wonderful career, everyone loved him, he was so good at what he was doing. I just don't understand. So there is this assumption here again that if you have, let's say, this money, this occupation, people love you, this career, and so on, somehow you're immune to mental illness. It would be wonderful if that was true, right? It would be wonderful, but it's not the case. These are protective factors. It's good to have those protective factors, but protective factors do not make you necessarily immune to mental illness. Same concept within physical health problems. You can engage in healthy diet, good exercise, good protective factors, let's say, against heart disease or diabetes and cancer, doesn't necessarily make you immune to those medical problems. Within the police and first responder world, we know that there is this culture and attitude to promote strength, physical strength and psychological strength. Excellent. We want to keep that. But it's important to understand that with physical strength and psychological strength, you can also have physical pain, physical injury, psychological injury. Those concepts are not mutually exclusive. And so, yes, you can be this authority figure and at the same time suffer from depression. And that's okay. We can seek help, maintain our productivity, and maintain our work. I often have people asking me, say, well, if someone suffers from a mental health problem, what do I do? How do I address it? What are the do's and don'ts? And I tell them, I say, well, you know what? It's quite easy. Just pretend the person has a physical health issue. What would you do? It's the same thing. First, we would listen to the person. It's important to listen, and especially not to interrupt the person, because when we suffer from a mental health problem, it's already very difficult to open up, so we don't want to interrupt the person. Listening is key. Never devalue the importance of listening. We want to listen. We want to show understanding and acceptance, and most importantly, empathy. Empathy is being able to put ourselves in the other person's shoe. Doesn't always mean that we agree with the person, but we are able to understand and appreciate what the person is going through. And also, most importantly, we don't want to engage in dismissive attitudes. Sometimes we engage in those dismissive attitudes without realizing it. We mean the best for the person, but without realizing it, we might actually hurt the person more. So comments like, don't worry, sleep, tomorrow you will feel better. Relax. Be happy. If we have a broken arm, we need treatment. If we suffer from a mental health problem, we need treatment. Same concept. And so the danger with the dismissive attitude is that the person is not going to feel validated, is going to further suffer in silence, delay treatment, and it can very much lead to what we call self-stigma. Self-stigma is when we start to internalize other people's beliefs and values about us, and we start blaming ourselves. You know what is true? It's my problem that I'm depressed right now, that I'm in my stage. Look at me, what a loser I am. I have clients who tell me, look at my fridge. My fridge is empty. What a stupid loser person I am. And I tell them, I said, well, if both of your arms were broken, would you say that to yourself? Would you say you're a loser and criticize yourself for the fact that your fridge is empty? They would say no. So here they are very much engaging in self-stigma. And I would tell them, I say, labeling ourselves is definitely not helping us. Obviously, there is a problem here. We need to recognize it. We need to engage in graduated steps to problem solve here the issue with the fridge. But here, we need to educate ourselves and then in turn educate others. I'm here throughout the day if you have any questions, and then also at the end there is a Q&A. But if at any time you have any questions, just don't hesitate. Any questions so far? We really need to shift focus towards talking about occupational stress injury rather than PTSD. PTSD is a main part of occupational stress injury. But when we talk about occupational stress injury, we are better able to understand its complexity and in turn its full range of impact on the individual. And so when we talk about operational stress injury, there is obviously, as I mentioned, post-traumatic stress disorder, but we can also appreciate a variety of other mental health problems that we can go through as part of, again, the operational stress injury. So depression, other anxiety disorders, substance use disorders, so essentially any other conditions that might interfere with our functioning would be part of the operational stress injury. And along with OSI, of course, we need to appreciate the variety of other adjustment-related issues and stressors that we go through because, again, of OSI. It could be employment-related matters, financial-related matters, and Bill did a great job at outlining some of the stressors as we go through as part of OSI. Relationship issues, it could be at work, it could be at home, family matters, and of course, physical pain and physical injury. So again, by taking into account all those and appreciating the complexity and the full range of impact on the individual, again, it helps for the treatment outcome and prognosis and return to a healthier level of functioning. What I was hoping is, very quickly, I want to go through some of the maybe key mental health problems, especially as part of operational stress injuries. I wrote down occupational stress injuries, but it's really, operational stress injuries. My apologies. For major depressive disorder, we all go through mood fluctuations, difficulty sleeping sometimes, appetite, energy, and that's very normal. But when we suffer from major depressive clinical depression, it's when we experience low and depressed mood for most of the day, nearly every day, for at least 2 weeks, or there's this reduced interest in things we used to enjoy, again, for most of the day, nearly every day, for at least 2 weeks. And there's the appetite changes, so it could be reduced appetite or increased appetite, and also with associated reduced gain or weight gain. Appetite changes are not always correlated with the weight gain or loss. A lot of times with depression, our appetite can go down, but weight can go up for a variety of issues. So physical activity can reduce. The metabolism also goes down with depression, and also at times some side effects of medications. Sleep patterns, sleep changes, difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or early morning awakening, or sleeping too much. There is a sense of low energy. We might have feelings of worthlessness, difficulty concentrating. We might become undecisive. We become forgetful, and of course, suicidal ideation and thoughts and plan or attempt at times. Within the anxiety disorders, they all of course distinct, but they also share some common features. So within anxiety disorder, there's always this excessive fear and anxiety towards specific objects or situations and activities, and the fear is always is often described as being excessive, and there's tense feelings, and as a result of the anxiety, we have difficulty managing our daily tasks and activities and responsibility, and there is also tremendous difficulty tolerating the uncertainties, even more so when we suffer from an anxiety disorder. We have here, for example, social anxiety disorder. When this is excessive anxiety in social situations. It could be having conversations with others, giving a presentation, eating, or writing in public. And the fear is of being exposed to the scrutiny by others. So being humiliated, judged, or looking stupid. Specific phobia is excessive fear or specific fear of objects. For example, it could be flying, heights, blood, injection, animals, insects. Panic disorder. Now, panic attack, it's very common to have panic attack following upsetting and traumatic events. So if we suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, it's very common to also have panic attack. Doesn't mean we have panic disorder. So a panic attack is when we suddenly experience intense fear or discomfort, or suddenly experience a variety of physical symptoms. Heart pounding, shortness of breath, nausea, sweating, a sense of losing control, going crazy. If we experience recurrent unexpected panic attack, and there is this persistent fear of having another panic attack, or persistent concern over the implications of the panic attack, such as having a heart attack, or we change our behaviors as a result of the panic, such as we don't want to go out anymore because we are afraid of a panic attack, then this might indicate a panic disorder. Agoraphobia is this marked fear of going to places for the fear of having panic-like symptoms, or escape or help might not be available in case we have panic-like symptoms, and the fear of being embarrassed, and so on. Generalized anxiety disorder is when we have excessive worries about anything or everything, and we feel that it's very difficult for us to control the worries. And as a result of the worries, we have difficulty concentrating, muscle tension, we might feel on edge, sleep difficulties, and so on. We have to move from the DSM-4 manual to the DSM-5. A DSM is a diagnostic statistical manual that allows us to make diagnoses. Within the DSM-4, we have obsessive compulsive disorder as part of anxiety disorders. Now, obsessive compulsive and related disorders have been moved to a new chapter. So there are a variety of diagnoses within obsessive compulsive and related disorders. One of the main ones being OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So it's marked by obsession, so having recurrent, distressing, and intrusive thoughts, images, or urges that are perceived as being unwanted. Common obsessions can include contamination obsessions, so fear of germs and dirt, doubting obsessions, so whether I have completed a task accurately or checking whether I have checked my door lock. And compulsions are repetitive behaviors or rituals that we engage in to reduce the distress or to prevent something bad from happening. So it could be washing compulsion, so washing my hands excessively or checking something excessively. Again, the goal is to reduce the distress or to prevent something bad from happening. Any questions so far? Is okay? Can everyone say yes, yes? Yes, thank you. But again, I'm here throughout the day if you have any questions, so. And so same thing here for PTSD, so trauma and stressor-related disorder has been moved to a new chapter within the DSM-5 manual. And so for PTSD, so as we know, exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence, so it involves being directly exposed to the trauma, witnessing the trauma happening to others, learning that the trauma has occurred to a close friend or family member. In this case, the event must be accidental or violent. And here, the last one, especially this has been added also for first responders, is the repeated exposure to trauma or extreme exposure to aversive details of the traumatic event. So collecting human remains or repeated child sexual investigations. And so as part of PTSD, so there are four main clusters of symptoms. And there are individual differences. So for some people, it could be they might suffer from all those symptoms in all those clusters. For some, it could be more intrusion and avoidance symptoms. For others, it's more the arousal symptoms. So there are individual differences, and we need to really appreciate that. So within intrusion symptoms, so intrusive, distressing intrusive memories and thoughts and images of the traumatic event, experiencing psychological distress upon reminders of the trauma and associated with a physiological response, or flashbacks, which is a sense of reliving again the traumatic event. Avoidance is avoiding anything that would remind us of the trauma. It could be activities or places or conversations, thoughts or feelings, anything that would remind us of the trauma. Negative alterations in mood and cognition, so experiencing persistent negative emotions, fear or shame or guilt, difficulty experiencing positive emotions, or experiencing persistent negative beliefs about ourselves, about others, about the world. So for example, I'm a weak person, I'm vulnerable, I cannot trust others, the world is a dangerous place. Or emotional disengagement. So emotionally feeling distant from others. So people, for example, might say, you know, I love my family, but just I feel the distant. I feel emotionally it's not connecting. I don't feel the love even though I know I love them. And arousal symptoms, so irritable behavior or angry outbursts, reckless or self-destructive behavior, or hypervigilance, being constantly on guard for signs of threat or danger, exaggerated startle response, which is when we feel excessively jumpy, difficulty concentrating, difficulty sleeping, they all fall within the arousal symptoms. Any questions before I move forward? Within substance use, any recurrent use of alcohol or substance that cause significant impairment in our functioning might be indicator of substance use disorder, and especially other key features that we look at are impaired control. So this is if we start using the substance more than it was planned. Social impairment, if we start giving up our social obligations or responsibilities, whether at work or at home or with children, as a result of the substance or alcohol. Risky use, so using in dangerous situations, so drinking, driving, or using dangerous machines and other substance. And also pharmacological indicators. So especially here by this we mean tolerance and withdrawal. So tolerance is we need to use more of the substance to achieve the same effect, and withdrawal is all the physiological changes and symptoms that we experience following cessation of the substance. We later have this afternoon, Dr. Tony George. He is the head of addiction at CAMH, who is going to talk to us about addiction and substance use and medicinal marijuana. So if you have any questions in regards to substance use, please consider me as your second option. Hello. Okay, so what time is it here? What time do we have here? 10 to 10. This is great. Okay, thank you. And back in October, Bill told me that I have I said to Bill, I really need an hour for my talk. And he said, no worries, Katy, I'm going to give you this 1 hour. I said, thank you. I don't know what happened. Around 3 weeks later that he said, Katy, I'm going to give you 5 minutes for your talk. And I said, Bill, we both know it's never going to happen. We need probably at least minimum 20 police officers to remove me from that stage. I can tell 20, minimum 20. Chris Bodie. I started also 5 minutes later because of Bill, so I might have around 15 minutes. Where is Bill? I don't even see him here. Bill, where are you? Is he here? Is Bill listening to my talk? I'm just realizing that Bill might not be here. Bill is here. Lynn is here. All right. My goodness. Okay. So I'm hoping to definitely I want us to have time to talk about ways of boosting our resilience and coping skills. Before that, quick talk about stress. What's good about stress and what's not good. Okay. So Toronto Police here, Inspector Chris Bodie is here with us. Let us applaud. Thank you, Chris, for coming. All right. So can you give us an example? What's a good stress? Exercise, absolutely. And so what's good about stress? So let's say, do we need our stress or not? Do we need stress or not? I see here someone nodding here. Yes, can you please give us your name? Ray? Thank you. So what's good about stress? Yes. Absolutely. So challenges you more, makes you work harder, and it makes you focus more. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And we have here Damien Wash here. Bonjour, monsieur. Thank you so much for coming. He's our vice president of the Toronto Firefighter Association. Thank you so much for joining us. So Damien here, let us, I'm going to have to make you work this morning. Give us a good example of stress. Is stress good or not? Okay, so can you give us an example of good stress and an example of bad stress? Finishing a good assignment at work is good stress, absolutely. And so what would be bad stress?
Well, certainly anybody in the first responder business knows what bad stress is.
Going to? Yes, absolutely. Bad call, right? Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And we also have here with us Go Transit. We have here Steve Wire. Where are you sitting, Steve?
He's gone to the bathroom.
He's gone to the bathroom. Oh, what a perfect timing. Do we have here Chris Hoffman? Do we have here Chris Hoffman? Where is he sitting? You all right? All right. Well, good morning. Can you give us a good example? Is Rob Jamieson there too? Good morning, Monsieur. Merci beaucoup. All right. So, can you please give us an example of a positive why we need stress, and an example as to why stress might not also be healthy? Yes, and then also an example why we also need stress as well. So the functional side of stress and the dysfunctional side of stress. Motivation to get things done. And the second one, sorry? Yes, positive reactions, absolutely. Thank you very much for that. We all need stress to go through in our life. And actually, probably almost every day we experience stress, and it's something very normal. And stress helps us to be more motivated, to be productive, to be prepared, and to meet deadlines. And whenever we experience a threat, we all have this inbuilt alarm system that becomes activated, a flight and fight, and also freeze response that becomes activated to fight the danger or escape. So we all need the stress. It's really whenever stress becomes chronic or prolonged over a period of time, such that we feel overwhelmed, we feel helpless and powerless, we just don't know what to do anymore, and it persists over a prolonged period of time. It's that stress that becomes harmful, that it leads to either psychological health problems or physical health problems. And stress, it's something that affects each of us from head to toe. Just in case you forget what stress is, a little man is here. So it's something that we all experience from head to toe. And it's very easy to get trapped into that circle without even realizing it. So it's helpful to look at, so what are some of the key warning signs to ideally prevent being in that circle, or if we get trapped inside that circle, that how we can exit it rather quickly. So stress affects us cognitively, so our thinking. So we might become more pessimistic, a lot of worries, a lot of negative thoughts, difficulty concentrating, thinking. We might become undecisive, difficulty making essentially any decisions. Stress also affects us emotionally. So mood irritability, we might feel down, depressed, anxious, hopeless, thinking that whatever I'm going to do doesn't matter, things will never change, which is then it's a key feature of depression. Or feeling helpless, I feel powerless. Doesn't matter what I do, I have no control over anything. And when we feel powerless and helpless is a key feature of actually anxiety. Stress also affects us physically, so headaches, abdominal distress, and especially muscle tension around the shoulder and neck area. It also increases our blood pressure, and our behaviors also change with stress. So we might eat more or eat less as a result of stress. Our sleep also becomes affected. We might want to withdraw. We don't want to be with people anymore. We don't want to interact as much. We might also give up our responsibilities. Could be anything, paying our bills or following up with our mails or emails, and increases substance use at times because of stress. It could be anything, caffeine, nicotine, drugs and alcohol, medication, or engage in nervous habits, nail biting, skin picking, and so on. So we might feel it in one area, but if we don't take care of it, it's just a matter of time before we experience before we experience the symptoms in other areas. So just remember, stress is something that affects us, each of us, from head to toe. Again, it's normal if we go through any stressful event to have some of those warning signs, very normal. But if you see them accumulating over time, or you see that you feel you're not yourself anymore, do something right away. Seek help, seek support. We always, at all time, we need to engage in self-care, but when needed, don't hesitate to contact a healthcare professional. So when we work on building our resiliency and better coping with stress, it's not a one-time event. It's really an ongoing process. And with this ongoing process, there is a lot of trial and error because we need to find our own individualized recipe, because what's going to work for me might not work for you. What's going to work for you might not work for me. So it's a lot of trial and error to find out what really works for each of us. So here I listed a variety of strategies, and hopefully you can take some of them and see what can work for you. We know that generally anything in life is based on relationships, healthy relationship, anything in life, very much so. At work, at home, life is about relationship. And so if we can find, especially in terms of healthy, good quality relationship, even if we have this one person in our life whom we can turn to to confide in and that we trust, it can be very healthy. But generally, in terms of having healthy relationships, it's very much seeking support, asking for help, and then also giving to others as well. Not seeing crisis as unbearable problems and keeping things in perspective. When we go through difficult life events, it could be something stressful we might have heard, or a tragic event, upsetting event. Our mind filters that information such that we become so bubbled into that stressor and we exclude everything else around it. So it's very important with any stressor or threat, anything that we go, that I always help to use the metaphor. Just imagine the circle. Put that dark negative event into that circle and fill that circle with what are your positives? What are your strengths? What have I learned about myself? Have I ever been in that situation before? How did I cope with it? What was helpful? What was less helpful? So once we are able to put the situation in perspective, we are better able to evaluate it. And with better evaluation, we can come up with healthier decisions, healthier problem solving. We are better able to adjust and adapt to the situation. That doesn't mean we accept it, doesn't mean we like it, but we accepted that, yes, it is part of my reality. I need to adjust to it so that I can move forward. I can bounce back. Looking opportunities for self-discovery, developing healthy positive of ourselves, praising ourselves here is, as I mentioned, what are my strengths? What are my positives? With my clients, that is something that I always work on, is let's make a sheet of what are your qualities, what are your positives, and what are your strengths. And you know what? This is the list that they have the hardest time with. It takes me, and I'm not exaggerating, maybe not even 30 seconds with ease to list for them at minimum of 10 strengths that I know that they have. They're not able to see it, and that's a problem. So we need to recognize what are my positives, what are my strengths, to develop this healthy view of ourselves. And to praise ourselves. Good for me that I did that. I'm proud of myself that I did that. And we need to do it, each of us, every day. It could be for anything. It could be, I was able to get up early this morning and get ready to attend this talk. Good for me. I was able to, my friend called me, needed help. I was able to help my friend. I'm praising myself for that. I had to do this load of laundry and this grocery and clean up the stuff, and I'm happy that I did it. So you need to praise yourself for everything that you do and recognize your accomplishment and achievement. As part of self-care, we need to, as I mentioned, taking in every moment as enjoying the moment and the present time and appreciating the positives that we have. And then also, as part of self-care, we all hear, proper sleep hygiene, healthy diet is very important, exercise. A lot of people say, well, I don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to go to the gym. Even 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk can be very significant. And engaging in a meaningful task every day, something that we look forward to. Doesn't have to be big. Most of us don't even have an hour every day to do something we enjoy. But if you can include every single day something meaningful, something that you would look forward to. It could be something 5 minutes in the morning. It could be 10 minutes in the afternoon, half an hour at night. Who does this? Who in the room has something that, you look forward to every day, that you make sure you do this every day? Can you please raise your hand? Okay, 1, 2. People are even afraid to raise your hand. Can you please raise them, because that's actually something positive. Okay, 1, 2, 3, okay. Okay, not bad, but it's not everyone, okay? I think maybe it might be 20% of the room. You see, we are in trouble. Can you please make sure this will be your take-home message? Because I want you to care for yourself. I want you to love yourself. You need to do this. We are responsible to do this. Something that you look forward to doesn't have to be big, but something that you look forward to. Okay, I'm not going to share mine because I'm a bit too embarrassed to do that, but I have my own stuff. You need to, actually, maybe there's only one I might share. For like maybe over 2 decades, I have, in the morning, my banana sandwich. Don't ask if there's something inside. There's nothing inside. Just toast and banana. Every single morning, happy to get to my office to have this banana sandwich and coffee. Every single morning. People tell me they don't even know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. So you need to find something that works for you. When we go through a lot of, stress and a lot of tasks and obligations and responsibilities, we need to prioritize our responsibilities. Prioritize means problem solving. So if I have A, B, C, today is going to be A, tomorrow B, and maybe next Tuesday C. Now, we all have a lot of demands that are oncoming. They just come. So that means when we prioritize responsibilities and then you have upcoming tasks, oncoming demands, more things thrown at you, what do you need to do? I'm sorry? Be stressed? Oh, de-stress. Yes, thank you. So how do you de-stress? Well, how about both then? How do you de-stress? It might help us for everyone as well. Okay. Lovely. So that's part of, setting meaningful activity and self-care. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. In terms of prioritizing responsibilities, so here if I have a lot of responsibilities, okay, and I'm prioritizing, which means problem solving. So today A, tomorrow B, next week C. Now I'm being given, X, Y, and Z to do. What do I need to do? What's the key word? Can you say it louder? Don't be afraid. There's no right or wrong answer. If you're wrong, I won't tell you you're wrong. Reprioritize. Merci beaucoup, madame. Reprioritize. That's what we need to do. So when we so it could be today I'm going to do B, next week I have to catch up with A, and then same thing for C. When we prioritize and reprioritize, we need to accept that I cannot do everything all at once. And that's hard. It's very hard to do. So we need to accept that, no, I cannot do everything all at once, and that's okay. So as part of that, we want to set realistic goals and expectations, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, flexibility. So when the goals and situations, circumstances change, more obligations, responsibilities, we need to exercise flexibility within the goals, and that's why what I meant, so reprioritize again. Planning ahead of time, it's always key. And as I mentioned, tolerance and acceptance, and reducing maladaptive perfection. I mean, we can give a huge other talk on, what is healthy and unhealthy perfectionism. But just for here is that maladaptive perfectionism is when we set, very high expectations and we don't change the expectations when circumstances change. And then we measure the outcome. We look at our own identity. And based on our identity, we can blame ourselves if we do not reach the outcome that we want. So healthy perfectionism, so we still set high expectation, but we are able to exercise flexibility within the goals and expectation. And then also, if something doesn't work out, I'm still able to maintain this healthy view of myself. I'm still able to recognize my hard work and achievement and strength, okay? So that's very important to have. Any questions? Is that helpful? Is that okay? Yeah? Any no here? Yes. Yes. So adaptive perfectionism, or healthy perfectionism, healthy perfectionism, you do set high goals, good high expectations, but they need to be realistic expectations. And when situations change, circumstances change, we also need to exercise flexibility. We might have to revise the goals, revise the expectations. And if the outcomes don't work out, we still want to maintain a healthy view of ourselves. Okay? Like, what are my positives and my strengths, and recognize that hard work and accomplishment. Okay? Any other questions? I have here a list of resources, so I can definitely discuss them with you throughout the day as well if you need anything. Otherwise, merci beaucoup. Thank you.